Hello all, welcome to my channel Journey with Some. Today I'm going to talk about standard deviation. Why do we want to calculate it? So let's go for the definition. So it tells you that how much the data is spread out around the mean. What is mean first? So mean is nothing but your sum of your values divided by the number of observations. So it will easily can interpret it by using the mean and the size of the deviation of a certain value. There are two kind of data deviation. One is the population and one is the sample standard deviation. So you might ask, what is the difference between the population and sample? Population is nothing but your, like if you have a population of your country, we are calculating the standard deviation of whole population and checking the spreading the mean value. So here the sigma tells you that the population standard deviation, and this one tells you that the value of your data point, and you can check with your mean, and this will denote you that the number of your data points. And coming to the sample population, so it is widely used in a clinical calculation. So suppose you're taking a population of your country, example India, and we are taking only the group of people who are only suffering with cardiac disease. So we are only taking a few samples, not all the population. So only few population might be suffering with that kind of disease, and we are checking the standard deviation and checking how that it is getting differed. So this S tells you that sample, and the main difference you want to calculate is here also we are calculating the data value of your data point with the sum of your value, that is nothing but your mean, but the only difference is you are calculating the number of observations minus 1. So this will tell you that your sample calculation. I'll show you one example how we can calculate a standard deviation. Here I'm showing some patient data which have height has been collected. So how many patients we have? There are 5. So we are calculating the height, and for this when we calculate the mean, so if you take the sum of this height divided by 5, so it will give you the mean of 165.2. Now what we will do, we will calculate the with the height with the mean. So if you take the difference, so 152 minus the mean will tell you for one data point is 13.2. So again 160 minus 165.2 is called 5.2. So in likewise we are calculating for each data point the mean of from the sum of the mean. When we take the square root of this value, it will tell you that for each data point it has been squared. And if you take the squared, the sum of the squared value is telling you like 4 444.8. So in this way, and as I told, we have a 5 samples here, like 5 patients ID. So when we calculate the 5 minus 1, we have a 4. Now what we can do, we can calculate the variance. So it's nothing but 444.8 divided by 4. So it will tell you the variance is, so when we take the square root of this variance, it is nothing but your standard deviation. So it will tell you that 10.54 the standard deviation has been calculated for a mean of 165.2. So if you see the difference, so the lesser the variability will tell you that the lesser the variance. So here we can see the lesser variance, and if you have a more standard deviation, it will tell you that the larger the difference, the variance it is. So now we will go to the live how we can calculate that in a Python. We just learned how we can calculate a standard deviation, and we also learned the mean. So before we going into it, I'm taking a glucose data. So before we calculate the standard deviation and the mean, how the data looks right now. So each patient has been, the glucose has been calculated here. So the value of this particular data tells you the glucose measurement for each visit. So there are 4 visits, and for 4 visits all the patients the glucose has been measured. So now we will see how the standard deviation and the mean can be calculated. So first we will see the mean of this one, and now we were taking the glucose value of this particular one. Okay, so the glucose value is nothing but your parameter, and let's give the parameter, and we will use the aggregate method, and we'll just calculate the mean. So when you execute this code, it is giving you one error. So let's see what kind of error it is. Could not convert a string value. So why? It's because I'll tell you. So this parameter is nothing but your uh, character value. It's not an integer. So when you want to calculate this descriptive statistics, you need an integer. So what is the integer in this value? What we can do? The integer is the results of this. So we are calculating the glucose value of this results. So let's keep the results now. So let's change this, and when you enter, so it has been executed, and it is telling you that the mean value is 190.75. So now we will create a standard deviation. Okay, so when we enter this, it's also giving a standard deviation is 59.74. So it's not having a much deviation here if you see the mean of this one. So it's a lesser the difference, the good, the variance is less. So now we can calculate all together the mean and the standard deviation here. So when you execute here, so when you open this data frame, you can see the glucose measurement results, what it has been calculated. So the what we have seen the mean here and the same. And now we will check one more parameter. So now what we can do, I would like to check with the visit wise. So how much it is getting deferred. Okay. So now we will give one more data frame called mean with standard with visit. So now we will use another method. So the glucose data frame, and we are grouping by the visit. So now when we enter, you can see the mean standard. So when you see the results, I think I'm looking for a different data frame. Yeah, I think this is the right one. So with the visit wise, the mean has been calculated, and you can see how much the standard deviation is shown here. So in this way, you can calculate the descriptive statistics, and you can see what's the difference or what is the variation it is from the mean value. So accordingly, you can also calculate from your perspective of your project. Thanks for watching. Hope you will stay tuned for the next videos.